guys, so last week we finished up your first unit for math. Now we're going to be changing gears and we're going to start today by talking about multiplication. So we're going to start working with multiplication, and there's lots of really cool elements to multiplication, but there are some things that I want to start off with as just an understanding of multiplication. So we're going to start off on page 93. And you'll see that at the top of the page, there's a question that says, what is going on when you multiply numbers? So when you guys were in the younger class, you learned about addition and subtraction when you got really comfortable with addition and subtraction, right? And we found that subtraction is really kind of like the opposite of addition. When you're adding numbers, you're building numbers. You're making them bigger. When you're subtracting, you're taking away or making something smaller. Well, multiplication and division actually work really similarly to addition and subtraction. So multiplication, like addition, means that your numbers are getting bigger. You're making more of something. And division means that you're making a smaller group of something. You're making it less. And so they work kind of similarly as addition and subtraction together. Multiplication and division are related. So as you start building your multiplication skills, we're also going to be learning a little bit about division as well. That will come a little bit later. But I do want you to recognize that there is this relationship where they're what's called the inverse, which means just kind of the opposite of each other. They're working together, but in different ways. So now below where it says model it, it says complete the problems below. It says you can add the total number of objects in different groups. When the groups are equal, you can also multiply to find the total. It says draw a picture of 3 equal groups of 2 balloons. And remember, because we're doing math pictures, we're going to make sure that our pictures are really simple pictures, right? So a way that I'm going to do a way that I'm going to make 3 equal groups is I'm just going to go ahead and draw circles that are going to show that I have 3 groups. And then I'm going to put 2 balloons in each group. So I want to have 3 groups, each with 2 balloons in it. So I'm going to have 2 balloons, and I'm going to do just my really simple pictures that way. I hope, and I'm recording a math lesson right now. I'll see you at 1:20 for Farm to School, okay? All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and do 2 more balloons in the next group and 2 more balloons in the last group. Now notice that each group has the same number of balloons in it, right? So we're talking about equal groups because there's the same number in each group. I have 2 in this group, I have 2 in this group, and I have 2 in this group. So this is a way that we can show multiplication by creating equal groups. So this would be an example of 2 3 times, right? I have 2 and 2 and 2. I have it 1, 2, 3 times for 3 groups. So for number 2, it says write an addition equation to represent the total your picture shows. Well, I'm just going to be adding my 2 from this group to my 2 from this group to my 2 from this group. So my addition problem would look like 2 plus 2 plus 2. I'm adding 2 3 times. Now the last one says complete the sentence to describe the equal parts in the picture, then use the same numbers to complete the multiplication equation. So the sentence says that we have blank groups of blank is blank in all. So if I think back to my groups, I have 1, 2, 3 groups. Each group has 2 balloons. I'm going to make my pictures even simpler this time. So 3 groups of 2. If I added them up, I'd have 2, 4, 6 is 6 in all. Now, if I'm going to write that as a multiplication sentence, I would say 3 times 2 equals 6. So on the, we're going to go ahead and skip page 94, but and actually we're going to skip page 95 and 96 and move right on to page 97 where we're going to work on this. So the main takeaways are that you can show multiplication with equal groups, you can show it with repeated addition, and you can also show it with a multiplication problem. So we just did that 3 ways. We showed a picture, which shows the group. We showed it as an addition problem, 2 plus 2 plus 2, 2 3 times. And we showed it as a multiplication problem. So go ahead and turn to page 97 now. On page 97, the top says, show what the expression 4 times 5 means by using equal groups. So we're going to draw equal groups. Now they haven't told us what we are drawing. Last time they told us balloons. But we're just going to go ahead and pick something. And in fact, it doesn't even really matter what it is. We're just going to make 4 groups of 5. So I'm going to start off first by drawing my circles to show that I have 4 groups. And then I'm going to fill each of my groups with 5 of something. I'm going to choose 5 stars just because I like making stars. And it's a simple math picture that I can do. Now, you may not be as familiar with drawing stars as I do. I star a lot of papers. So if you want to do stars like I am, you're going to start by trying to draw a triangle. But instead of connecting it at the bottom, you're going to come across, over, and then back to where you started. Now, if that's too complicated, you can make circles, you can make squares, but I'm going to go ahead and show that I have 4 groups, and each group I'm going to put 5 stars in it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I'm going to do the same thing in the next group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now I have 5 in each of my 4 groups. So you should have a similar picture drawn for A where it says draw equal groups. Now for B, it says use words to describe your drawing of 4 times 5. So we would say we have 4 groups of 5. I drew stars. If you drew something other than stars, then label it with what you drew a picture of. So I have 4 groups of 5 stars. Okay. Now C says write the product. The product means the answer to a multiplication problem. So they have 4 times 5 written in. And you may be saying, oh my gosh, teacher Jeff, how can I write the answer to a multiplication problem? I don't know how to multiply yet. But if you go back and look at your picture, you can find the answer. Now, I could count up 5 and 5 more and 5 more and 5 more and 5 more. But because they're 5s, I can also count by 5s, right? 5s are nice and easy to count to. There's other numbers that aren't as easy to count to. It's not as easy to count by 3s or 4s or 6s, but we can count easily by 2s and 5s and 10s. And this one happens to be groups of 5. So instead of counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I'm just going to go ahead and skip count by 5. So I have 5, 10, 15, 20. So 5 4 times, 5, 10, 15, and 20, I added up 5 4 times, is going to equal 20. Okay? So for C, go ahead and write in 20. Now, for number 2, they say, show what the expression 4 times 5 means using an array. An array is like a grid where you're going to show how much you have of something by showing rows and columns. Now, when I draw an array, I'm going to stick with stars, but you can go ahead and use squares or circles as well. When you're making an array, you want to try and keep your drawings as lined up as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the same thing in that I have 4 groups, but I'm going to make them into 4 stars going along the top of my array. And I'm going to create kind of like I'm going to create kind of like a grid, which for my stars. So I have 4, and I'm going to then make 5 going down each column. So I'm going to do 1. 1 is already there. 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm going to do the same thing in each column under each star. I'm going to have 5 stars in each column. But I'm going to kind of try to space them so that they all line up. So this one is about here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And see how I tried to keep it lined up under this star, but also going across like this? So I'm kind of creating these imaginary lines in between where I'm then going to put my stars. You can also actually draw the lines in if you find that easier to go ahead and keep your information organized. So you don't need to. You can kind of, if it works better for you to draw them in so that you can stay organized, then that's great. If you don't want to draw them in, you don't have to as well. I'm going to leave mine in just so that you guys can see it. All right, so in the next column, I'm also going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whoa, my stars are getting kind of out of control there. So what I've done is, even though I have them all spread out instead of in groups, I've still created a column where I have 5 stars in each column. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. Okay, so now I can count them up and say that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 stars, showing us the same thing, that we have 4 columns, each with 5 stars, is a total of 20 stars. So for B, it says use words to describe your drawing. So we would say that we had 4 columns. Oops. Columns is a funny word. It has an N at the end. Columns of 5 stars. And then C says write the product. So we would have 4 columns of 5 stars equals 20 stars. Okay. On the next page, you'll see that they have created some tiles for you. So on page 98, number 3 at the top says you can push the tiles in an array together to make a rectangle. Write the multiplication equation for the rectangle that the rectangle below shows. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a picture of the same. So they've drawn it out as a rectangle with a grid. So they have 3 rows. And they have 7 columns. So rows go side to side, columns go up and down. So I have 1, 2, 3 rows, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oops, 7 columns. All right. So you have a rectangle that is cut up into pieces that look similar to this in your book. So now we're going to come up with what a multiplication sentence would look like for this rectangle. So if I have 3 rows and each row has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 squares in it. I have 7 here, I have 7 here, and I have 7 here. I'm going to count them up to find what my product would be for 3 times 7. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to count on from 7 here. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Counting on from 14. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So 3 times 7 equals 21. Now for 4, it says draw a rectangle made up of square tiles that shows 5 times 3 equals 15. So now they've given you the multiplication sentence, and you're going to draw the rectangle. So they have 5 times 3 equals 15. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that 5, and even though the first time I did it as starting off my columns, I think that's kind of easier, but we're going to start off with our rows of 5. So we're going to say that we have, first I'm going to draw my rectangle, and I know that I need 5 rows. So I'm going to have 5 going across. So I have, that's 1 row, that's 2 rows, that's 3 rows, 4 and 5. So now I have 5 rows. Now, my top one is a little bit bigger than my bottom one. You want to try to make them kind of equal, but you guys get the idea. Now, so I have my 5. Now I'm going to go ahead and break them up into 3 columns. That's 1, 2, and 3. Now, I should have 15 total squares when I count them all up. Let's double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yep, I did my rectangle correctly because I got 15 as my product. Okay, we're going to go ahead and skip numbers 5 and 6 on this page. I would highly recommend doing those on your own for a little bit of extra practice. But I'm going to go ahead and skip through them to make this video a little bit shorter. Pages 99 and 100 we will be covering in our lesson together. And so we're going to go ahead and skip actually all the way to page 102. So skip page 101 and go all the way to 102. So we're going to go ahead and solve problem 4 together. So we are starting with a word problem. Tucker wants to use pennies to show 5 times 8. Show what Tucker can do. Part A says draw a model to show 5 times 8 pennies. Explain what each number means. And then part B says write a story problem about Tucker's pennies that can be solved using the model you drew in part A. Tell how many pennies Tucker has in all. So for part A, we have 2 ways that we have just learned that we can display multiplication. We can display it as equal groups, or we can display it as an array. I find equal groups to be a little bit easier to do. So I'm going to show equal groups, but if you find drawing an array easier, then please feel free to draw an array. So let's go back to the directions for part A. It says draw a model to show 5 times 8. So I'm going to go ahead and create my 5 groups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now remember, what we're putting in our groups is pennies. So I'm just going to draw a circle because that's a simple math picture for each penny. Now we had 5 groups, so that means that we're going to have 8 pennies in each group. So I'm going to draw 8 circles in each group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's 1 group done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 would be 5 groups. Each group has an equal number of pennies. Each group has 8 pennies in it. Okay, so this would be an example of a picture showing 5 times 8. If you chose to show it as an array, you could also think of it as I have 5 rows, and in each row I'm going to put 8 pennies. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in the first row. I'm going to try and line up my second row with my first row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Down to the next row. Remember that the first one is still, you're including it in your count. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And my last row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So either as equal groups or as an array, you should have one of these for your picture for part A. Now part B says write a story problem about Tucker's pennies that can be solved by using the model you drew for part A. So we know that we have a person named Tucker. He has some pennies and he wants to show his pennies. So we're going to go ahead and show that we're going to come up with a scenario where Tucker would need to take his pennies and divide them into 5 equal groups. So we might start by saying Tucker has 5 friends. He gives each friend 8 pennies, right? So our group would be the 5 friends. What's in each group are the 8 pennies. The key word here being each, telling us that we are taking that in every, for every friend, they're each getting 8 pennies. So now we would say, how many pennies did Tucker give? Did Tucker give away? Hi, Esme. We're actually going to be meeting for Farm to School at 1:20. I'm recording a math lesson right now, so I'll see you at 1:20, okay? So for part B, writing a story problem for the multiplication problem that we came up with. You can write it in any way, but the main part is that Tucker is starting off, he has 5 groups that he's going to put 8 pennies into. How many pennies did he put into those groups? Okay. We're going to skip number 5. Go ahead and turn the page. And actually, I think that's the last of it. So if you would like to come back and do the rest of pages 101 and 102, you're welcome to do those for a little extra practice. Please remember that pages 99 and 100 we will be going over together on Tuesday, and I will see you guys next time. All right, bye.